Hey everyone, welcome back to the Ceres Podcast. In today's episode of Past Masters, Mark is joined by a special guest, Alastair Horabin, the owner of Seniors Fish and Chips. Alastair won Fish and Chips of the Year in 2012, and although he's been on our podcast and like a double episode in Season 6, none of what we discussed was covered in this episode, which is a real testament to Mark Petrou, who's doing really well as a host in my view. I was listening to this episode whilst forcing myself to go for a walk and trying to be healthy, and I really enjoyed it. And this is one of the main reasons that I wanted a new podcast host, because it means that I can also enjoy the episodes from a listener point of view. Today's episode is sponsored by Ceres Curry Sauce, crafted with real herbs and spices sourced from around the world. No flavours, no essences, this is the real deal. This curry sauce is designed for today's sophisticated customers, delivering perfect harmony of sweetness and spice. We're committed to exceptional quality, using only the finest ingredients. Our curry sauce is naturally gluten-free, free from artificial colours, preservatives and other nasty additives, ensuring you enjoy the true essence of our product. A little goes a long way. With our concentrated curry sauce, just 5 kilos produces a whopping 41 kilograms of sauce, equating to 410 tasty 100-gram servings. But don't just take our word for it. Here's what Helen has to say, a verified review on our website. This curry is absolutely fantastic, the best tasting product on the market, plus the yield is so much greater. Massive profit and increase in sales. Order your Ceres curry sauce today at www.ceresshop for next day free delivery across mainland UK, or purchase from your favourite wholesaler. Give it a try. To stay updated with everything we're doing at Ceres, follow us on social media, join our mailing list and get direct updates to your inbox. You'll find the link in the episode show notes. Also, join the conversation on the Ceres Podcast discussion group. If you enjoyed this episode, why not share it with friends and colleagues in the industry? And whilst you're there, don't forget to leave us a review for Apple Podcasts. It really helps us out. Now, let's dive into today's episode with Mark and Alastair Horabin.
Alastair, welcome. Thank you so much for joining us again. For the benefit of the listener, this is not the first time we've recorded this. I had technical issues, and we've had to go over it all over again. And so you've given me your time twice, and I'm eternally grateful. Now, this time at recording it, you're not coming into this fresh because you've just run like 100 kilometres yesterday, didn't you? Tell us about that before I even introduce your brand and your business and your achievements. Tell us what you did at the weekend.
I did a 102k race called the Race to the King, based in Chichester, which is a figure of 8 loop, which took us all the way down to the coast and then back into the lovely South Downs Natural Park. So yeah, it was a hell of a do. Something I've been training for a while. And yeah, it was a 12 hours of running. I can't confess to have worked that hard and that many hours for a long while. I thought about a lot. I did a lot. I ate a lot. I burnt a lot. I ran a lot. I walked a lot, and it was good fun. I must admit, I cannot feel my quads at the moment, and sitting is comfortable and walking downhill isn't. But no, it's unbelievable what the body can physically achieve if you just turn yourself to it.
You're not kidding. I mean, that's like 3 marathons in one go.
Not quite, 2.5. But I think it's I quite like 100k because it's kind of 1 is 1%, 2 is 2%. So I kind of like that. That's how my silly brain works. So it was kind of like once I got to 50k, I'd stuck to where I was going to be, and then at 60k, I was still where I wanted to be. And then at 60k, the legs went no. And then it was a difficult 32 or 20 miles, 32k, 20 miles of real struggle running of which you then go to all different depths to think about how to get through 4 or 5 hours. And then the time I wanted was then gone, which was quite cathartic for me, as I wanted to win and put myself in all sorts of pain in previous endeavours at Ironman and other running races and things. I kind of balanced it straight away that I'm not going to achieve the time I wanted because I'm not physically able today. And how do you square that circle? So I was on my own, so there's no crew. So I had to finish. I was in the middle of nowhere. So it was kind of like, right, 4 hours of walk, run, hike, walk, run, moan, run. And sooner or later, the finishing line appears. And yeah, I came 23rd out of nearly 400 people. And it was a really well-run event. Threshold did a really good job. And if anyone ever is in that area wanting to go into the ultra running, not that I would recommend, but a great, really, really well-run business, 50-50 in terms of men and women, safe, great crew, and a really good community that welcomed every single person. And I think the difference in the final reckoning of the 100K was the winner did it in 9 hours. He broke the course record, a phenomenal guy, and the last person was 26 hours, and the crew was still giving it large for that period of time. So a huge fun weekend, let's say.
That's humbling. That's phenomenal because you're talking right now to somebody who, when it comes to running, I can't even run a bath without sitting on the side of the bath and waiting for it to fill up. I'm in awe of you, but I was in awe of you before you told me what you.
I think on that point, and I'm sorry to attack you in your own podcast, but I think through COVID and I think through the lifestyle that people live in fish and chips or hospitality, I do believe that there is something hugely missing for hospitality in terms of this communication back to. I'm not saying you have to do what I do and run, but running is the exit for customers, staff need to hit figures, energy bills. So running has been a big part of me and self-harming. Doing 100K may be described as, but it's all relative, whether it's 5K or 500 metres. It's got to start somewhere. And I think with the battles of family health this last 18 months, 2 years with mum having a stroke and dad beating cancer, I do genuinely think I'd love for you to be able to stand and run a bath and then maybe make 2 better choices today on a health, maybe make another choice on a walk. And little things like that just add up, and sooner or later you're adding years to your life, and it's different. It's definitely different when you're healthy. Life is a little bit difficult when you're unfit and you're finding hard things to do that really shouldn't be. So I ask you, Mr. Petrou, to make a smarter decision once a day for a week and see how you feel.
Maybe I'm being a bit harsh on myself. Maybe I can run a bath and not sit on the side. I appreciate it. It's not just about physical health. There must be a mental benefit too from being alone with your thoughts.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Pounding the pavement, and obviously chemicals get released into your body while you're doing this as well. That are also good for your mental health as well. So I do get it. I'm not as unfit as photographs suggest. I'm thin in real life.
On that point, I've worked brilliantly for nearly a decade with an amazing therapist, a big, strong Blackpool lady who, because this industry, and I don't think there's a SAR or a guru or a person that discusses it, in this industry of hospitality, whether it's fish and chips or anything related to serving the customers, there's a reason to celebrate and there's a reason to commiserate. And those days are long days, 6 o'clock in the morning cutting fish in busy shops or quiet shops. It doesn't really matter the numbers. It can be a long day, 6, 7 a.m. till 8, 9, 10, 12, God knows, 2 a.m. And you can celebrate a good day and you can celebrate a bad day. And I think what isn't talked about in hospitality at all is some people then choose to drink, to eat, to take drugs, to exercise. And I think the reality is it's always an out. And I think if it was less focused on sometimes what you have to do to survive. I think people would definitely choose a more healthier way to exalt the pressures of running a fish and chip business. So for me, I'm no different. I've been heavy. I've lost weight. I've worked tirelessly on myself to make sure I don't drink, for instance. I don't gamble. I've worked hard at that and become a better boss, a better husband, and a more level-headed individual. And I think we'll go on to Chip of the Year at that tangent, in the fact that the reality is, being 5 years of not drinking and being 5 years of being, then COVID comes and then everything achieves what you achieve. Things happen for a reason. And I think the people who listen to this podcast are all understanding that one shit social media post on a Friday night at 10 o'clock before you go to bed, it can really ruin your night, your day, and it can put you into a spot where you don't really want to be. And I think for me, personally, exercise, whether it's 1K or 100K, it is an amazing vehicle to just balance yourself back.
Yeah, I agree. I think everybody needs to take the corners off the day and round those corners off. And during the 90s, I used a different method to what I use these days. And some people like to drink. I've owned pubs. That's what made me teetotal. And I stopped smoking at the turn of the century, so I've not had a cigarette for 24 years. We all need to find that something, and if running's for you, then power to you. And I agree. I think everybody needs to find that way, and it's not talked about very often in hospitality. But yeah, I think that everybody needs that outlet, that way of getting the day out. It's more often than not it's a glass of wine for someone, or it's alternative methods, but running is probably the one that I look up to and admire the most, because although I go to a PT, I've got a personal trainer, and I go and have a couple of hours with my PT. I don't run. I haven't got it in the knees, I haven't got it in the back. I do 10, 15,000 steps a day, but they're not meaningful steps. It's what we need to do is get our heart rate up and burn calories. And bloody hell, if you've run 100k, you must have put some calories in to get the calories out. What did you eat before you did this?
So the Thursday before the race is the big day to eat. So eat basically carbohydrate, simple rice meals, porridge twice through the day, rice and chicken twice through the day, 2 bars through the day, and then drink 3-4 litres of electrolyte water. So the Thursday before the day is always the time. Friday's just simple, no fibre through the week, just so you're good. And then the Saturday morning, porridge, banana and a coffee, and then really 100k is just an eating competition, because you've got to keep eating, you've got to keep running. So I think it was 7,500 calories I burnt through the 12 hours. And I was laughing to the kids. I had 7 Freddos, 5 bags of salt vinegar crisps, 2 litres of Coke, 5 litres of drink, some 7 or 8 Rice Krispie bars. And
just to keep putting fuel in.
Yeah, all these companies spend far more money than we do testing to keep kids eating them, and I've never had any issues, because these things are tested to exhaustion, like literally exhaustion of keeping people eating them. So I keep it to real food, and I didn't have an issue with that. It was great, and then afterwards you think, I'm going to eat for like 4 days straight, and you just don't. You just go to bed, and it's just like a day's over, and then it becomes normal. But no.
Once you finished, did you kind of seize up? Did everything stop working?
Yeah, I rang my dad. And I said, Dad, I've got 300 yards to the hotel. It's your task to get me to the front door. And it took 10 minutes and 47 seconds, and I hung the phone up when I got to the hotel room for 300 yards. So, it was a hell of a do. And, it was, it's good. For me, that's what keeps seniors alive, because without me being mentally stable, that would be a challenge. So, again, I implore anyone to do a 5k, never mind, something like me. Just it starts with something that gives you that energy and that little bit of a flicker, and then God knows what happens.
Get off the sofa. So, you are Alastair Horabin. Your brand, your shop is called Seniors. You were the 2012 winner of Fish and Chip Shop of the Year. You've done a lot in such a short amount of time. You're the youngest person ever to win Fish and Chip Shop of the Year, and you're the first shop to win it with pre-prepared chips.
Yeah.
Have I got?
Yeah, that was a really proud time when we did that, because obviously we'd had a go prior to winning many times. We'd come unplaced. We'd come third twice. I'd done it. The story is, my dad had gone in on his own. My dad had gone in with an ops director who was still with the business now, 24 years. Then I'd gone in with my dad. And then I'd gone in with Sally, my wife, and then I went in with Dom, my brother. And I think we touched on this last time, but Dominic is not like me. I'd love Dom to do 100k definitely, and I'd love Dom to be more like me, but it wouldn't work. It just wouldn't work. So
a bit like me and my brother, we're totally different.
So when it came to, like, without being daft, it was like, right, me and Dom are going to go. We kind of had done it we'd been there, we'd had laughs, we'd come third, we'd been in the pub and been the losers and got that long train journey back, and we'd prepared like everything the same way all the time, and it was meticulous, and we'd gone round. And when I did it with Dominic, we kind of just relaxed into it, and I didn't stay in the main hotel. We stayed out of London, not out of London, but out of the noise. We ate in a restaurant out of the way. We didn't see anybody the day before the day of the event. We literally just walked through the door 10 minutes before, and we go. And as I say, the journey for anyone who's doing it sometimes you win straight away. Sometimes you do as we've done. We came third, I think 3 times, unplaced once, and then we won it. But the feel of when we went to win in 2012 was completely different, because Sally, my wife, was about to have a baby. She couldn't travel. My mum stayed with Sal. We brought a party table, and again, I was definitely drinking back then. And it was funny because these people are not really invested into the process like your ops director, your spud man, your whatever. These guys were just friends of us and were on a blast in London. So when we got there, it was kind of like, well, of course we're going to win. And when the work had been done prior, and then the nerves had obviously come through. So it was a hell of a day, but the process to win was definitely not all as rosy as it can be depicted.
So you didn't really feel like you were part of the industry, to not mix with other fish fryers, to take yourself out of the circus until the award ceremony, because that's really what you've just described.
Well, we've been in that, Mark. You've been there before. You walk into the main hotel and everyone arrives in the posh cars or the taxi or the suit, and then you have a drink, and then how did your assessment go? How did your chat go? What score did you... And I wanted to protect Dominic from that, and then I wanted to go and do our bit, and then the decision was going to be made by the judges, not by the conjecture that was going to be done in the hotel bar till X time in the morning. So it was kind of like a hit and run. Hit the thing, do a great job, be immaculate, deliver the best presentation we physically can, the best Q&A we can, and then what will be, me and Dom will go and have a good food. We went to Cicconi's for tea. We went back to our little hovel of a hotel, and we kind of crawled back in through the back door when we met our guests at the hotel. So it was kind of like protecting my brother, but also I'd kind of probably more protecting me as well. And the fact
managing your own expectations.
I really knew that 5 times we were going to be potentially, this could be the last chance really, because I think we'd already opened, we were pushing the envelope. We had 3 shops at that point. Thornton obviously had Normos and Lytham. So it was just feeling, Mark, that the runway was getting shorter and shorter, and I just wanted to make sure that really this was as much fun as it could be if it was our last one. and we'd done with my brother. So yeah, it was a completely different experience to any other one would been a part of.
So you'd paid your dues to the competition in that you'd come and been judged to have fallen short on a few occasions before you actually lifted the title. It wasn't that long a runway for you to begin with, because you only started in September 2000 in Blackpool. Is that right? And you opened the shop in Thornton in 2006.
Yeah. So Dad was a fish merchant. So Dad bought Seniors Blackpool in 2000 to retire. And then as it became quite clear that fish and chips was going to be the future for the family, I went to university for 3 months, hated it, and then came in, and then that was the journey together. So I spent the whole of my teenage young life with Dad. I was filleting fish, driving forklift, bag milk truck, genuinely just with my dad and the fish guys the whole way through my life. So for me, it was an obvious path whether I was going to go into fish. And I prefer, I'll be honest, fish was fun. I mean, I like the film Armageddon because Liv Tyler was brought up by a load of oil rig guys, and she seemed to do all right. And I think for me, it was kind of like I learned about the birds and the bees from tattoos. I laugh because those lines were like some of those magazines and some of those calendars and some of the language and some of what the challenges those men were going through each week to put a paycheck on, and what they then were doing at the weekend to get back to work was real life. And I was blessed at 10, 11, 12 to be able to do that. So to be honest, I was always going to follow whatever Dad was going to do. It's just what was that going to be. So I came into the business in 2004 or end of 3, early 4. And that was it. Dad, remember, famous line, just said to me, if you're leaving uni, this is for the rest of your life. And it was kind of chilling because I realised it was. I didn't have a degree and I'd have to really go on my way. So, and after that was it. So we opened, we built Thornton from a car park, 38 weeks, nearly bankrupt the family. We tried to win it in the first year. We came third with that store, and then we went back and won it in 2012. So it wasn't like straight away bang bang. It was like, oh, here's it, third, and then nothing for a couple of years, and then back into London. And really, the shop was then just about, I'd say, ready to show off a bit. But at the beginning, it was too big. It would have been even harder than it was to manage.
Now, at the time that you won it, I remember your strapline was Think Fish, Think Seniors, and you had 13 different species on your menu. And that also comes from the fact that your dad had such knowledge and you had such knowledge and access to superb fish at the time.
Yeah.
You don't do 13 species today.
No. Do you know what, though? Since I've last spoken and the last 2-3 weeks, really, I've kind of like had a bit of a down period with work, and I've gone, how do I get myself back going up the spiral again? And so I've got myself back into buying fish, and we've got back up to 5 this last fortnight.
Right.
Because that makes me happy. It just makes me happy to have that level of. So this weekend we've put lemon sole on this weekend. We've had halibut and we've placed cod, haddock, etc. It was normal, but yeah, we basically bought fish every morning, filleted it together. I had a nap. I then went to work. He then repeated the day, Monday to Friday, and the aim was as many chip shops as we can until we run out of fish. That was pretty simple, really. And we would buy really good fish, really, really cheap, make a profit, but then not take the mick, sell it at the right price, and it would just keep moving it. So I was spending 5-6 hours a day opposite my dad on a filleting bench, the trough, and we would just talk, and sometimes we'd have periods of silence. But again, about the 100k run, we would fillet small hake, lemon sole, John Dory, brill, megrim, whiting. We would fillet for 4 hours and not say anything to each other. And it's prepared. It prepares you for days where things like a customer doesn't come in for an hour or 40 minutes because it's bad. And I think those days I'd love to replicate with my kids, but I was just blessed that was the opportunity I had. And with seniors being as it is now, I think those were the foundations. And winning the Chip of the Year, when we won it, was very, very lucky. And that was probably the last knockings of our notoriety to actually do it. Otherwise, we were going to have to go elsewhere and try a different path.
Yeah, but you've clearly got an incredible bond with your dad, and that would have happened in the fish cutting room, and over the years from working with him. It's a gift, isn't it, to be able to be able.
Oh yeah, he was the best. He was my best man at my wedding, and obviously he's been long retired now, and he's quite famous because he owned a chip shop for, well, let's say 20 years, just for ease of saying. But however long, he could have owned one for 50 years, but he never fried a piece of fish in his life. So he put himself on chips in the middle of everybody and just was elbows and arms and making noise and obsessed with customers being looked after. However, he never actually fried fish in his life, so it was quite funny to see it. But yeah, hell of a bloke. Great. He's Pops, he's called now. He's got 7 grandkids. Spends his time doing that, and yeah, it's definitely something I was blessed to have, and I'm very lucky to still have. And again, things you've got to take for granted sometimes. I'm blessed to have both parents healthy now after a tough year last year, and just sometimes you've got to enjoy those days, haven't you?
Yeah, but he didn't steer you towards a family business. In fact, he went and got you privately educated, to give you the option to be everything that you wanted to be. It was your free choice to come into the family business.
Yeah, no, we were. Dad sold his first fish business to private equity, and Dad got paid. It was a good money. It wasn't millions and millions, but he got paid good money, and he could have paid his mortgage and bought a nice Spanish home and lived an easy life. But he put us all 3 boys through private school and made that money simply melt away and into our education. So, and we laugh because 2 boys are frying fish and chips, and my middle brother is on the board at Asda. He's done. He left university with a first class honours degree, went straight into Aldi, worked through Aldi, and now he's on the board at Asda. So the education side has not done too bad. He's got retired out by 2 boys, and he's got the middle boy who literally is pulling trees up in a massive commercial entity that is Asda supermarket. So yeah, it's a great decision from both mum and dad. Probably didn't expect us to come into fish and chips and then start buying chip shops like I did through the late 2000s, but he's always been pretty good with me. I remember we hit the limit of the borrowing we had to build Thornton, and it was like, what do we do now? He's like, well, we've got a roof on it. We'll open the downstairs and we'll fit the upstairs out when we've got enough. And it was weird, but we did it. And then we kind of had to win because we had to just crack on. Do you know what I mean? And I remember then, if you remember George and Paul at Thornton Fisheries, bless George, he's not with us anymore, and Paul's out the industry, but they came, they got to London the year I'd finished building. And it was like, this shop was like 1.3 miles away in London. And I'm like, if that wins, we've just done 600-700 grand building a chippy.
Yeah.
That would have been a bad day. So, yeah, it was a hell of a do. We had a great laugh. We built it, and then we won it. And it was a great achievement, and I'll never forget because I took my dad took me in technically to win Chip of the Year, and I was very young, 21, and I had an argument with a judge from the NFFF about prepared chips, and I had a lot to say for myself really, that I was being castigated for bringing basically a lower product into the industry and it'll never work. So when we won it, I must admit I was quite proud that we'd carried on, and the product we were doing was vindicated by the judges and by the process. So, yeah, I'm not saying that's a pathway for everyone to listen to, but if you've got something that you really control your mind and want to do, I've never ever kissed arse to get where I needed to be. And that was going to be winning with prepared chips, and it's going to be controlling what the customers and the staff, and that was the vision, and that's what we delivered on, and I'm proud of that, and I always will be.
Yeah, I do sense that because I was around at the time that you won, I'd already won it. I'd been a judge, and I did sense at the time that you won that there were people frowning upon the fact that A, you were young, B, you had your own ideas, and that they weren't in keeping with the history and tradition of fish and chips, and that you were using chips that were pre-prepared, and you showed a tremendous amount of character and resolve to stick to your own convictions and prevail. But it didn't win you many friends. There were a lot of people that kept you on the outside of the industry. When you won the award, did people change? Did you feel as though your year as being champion, you were embraced more because you'd lifted the trophy? Or
no, fair play, to be honest. Fair play to the people that didn't like me then, still didn't like me through the years. So they didn't change, and they'll remain nameless, but they have my respect for having a set of bollocks to be the same person. I mean, I would have called it out for them to change, but the reality is that at 20, what was I, 23 4 years, what it? I don't know, 2012, 1985, 20, what was it, Mark, 23, 24?
20, I thought you were 21, but 23.
1985 I was born, I went in 2012, come on, 15, 26.
Right.
So
still young.
I was 21 when I fell out with the judge, and the reality of what it was in that small period of time, I had obviously grown and listened to what the feedback was. We'd done a nationwide tour going all the way up to Hull, Grimsby to speak to fish guys. We'd gone and speak to V.A. Whitley's. We'd gone down to see the Lipscomb family. We'd gone to see Fred Capel. We'd see all people that had big players in the industry. I knew I'd definitely spoken to yourself, and spoke to anyone who'd listened to me. That I needed to knock the edges off, like you said prior, but I needed to keep the focus if I was going to do it with this certain way. And when I went back 3 or 4 years later to win that, I think I was ready to do it, and I think I was probably in a better position than some of the judges and some of the people in the industry would have thought of. And if they would have let me go to Japan, for instance, if they'd let me go on the programs, I think maybe I was seen as a bit of a hothead or a risk. But every media I've done and every request I've done in the whole of my time in the industry, I don't think I've let the industry down, and always gone over the step, over the vision. But I'm not going to sit there and peddle that we need to worry about cutting VAT on fish and chips when we're going through a cost of living crisis. I'm not going to agree with that message from the NFFF about worrying about a tenner or worrying, because I don't believe in it. And if I did believe in it, I'd peddle that out to the end of the world. So it was what it was, but things happen for a reason. I didn't get to go to Japan and the programs, but I opened a chip shop number 4.5 months later on cash flow from the competition that they let me win. So how do you want to balance the scales in the fact that I had just had a baby 2 weeks after winning? So yeah, the big man in the sky, he decides what happened, and it wasn't for me to disagree with that, and I just went with the flow.
Yeah, well, the year that you won it, you were actually finalist in restaurant as well, and good catch. So I think it shows how much you'd grown into the competition to be not just in the winner of takeaway, but also finalist in restaurant and finalist in good catch as well. Since then, you've gone on and you've opened 6 more shops. You've now got 10 shops.
Yeah,
I think that speaks volumes. That since winning in 2012, in just 12 years, you're up to 10 shops, and they're all in a certain geographical location, in that you can service them all from one central hub.
Yeah, correct. So that was the key thing. The key thing for me, and I'm a huge fan of McDonald's, a huge fan of really big corporations that run businesses, and I'm never going to get there, never going to be that, never going to get any close to that. But I spent a lot of time studying how I can basically make the product the best it can be. And the reality of prepared chips, it gave me a standard of chips. Now, obviously, your chips might be different to my chips because you're stood over it with a knife and doing it every day. But I knew that I needed a consistent product that was going to allow me to look after the customers, the staff, and the product. And if I could look after those three factors day after day, I could then grow the business and start with a solid base. If I had 6 shops, 4 shops, 2 shops with 2 peelers, 2 rumblers, 2 fish cutters, I could tell you were late today, give you a verbal warning, you're going to cook great fish tomorrow. You're not, you're going to be annoyed. And it was that little bit in my mind that I needed to control the only things you can control day after day after day, and then start working towards the bigger plan of how you make a really difficult industry of fish and chips as standardized as physically possible. And knowing my place that the single operator, husband, wife, or single store with an amazing driven team, all on a net profit bonus, are all going to pull the pants down from a chain, always, every day. But if you've got a great chain that is physically motivated by a guy who wants to still motivate staff, customers, and suppliers to be better every day, I think we can deliver great fish and chips better than the majority of fish and chip shops in the area. And that's the vision now today is still the same. I mean, I'm not saying I'm going to go and open many, many more, I must admit, but the fire is definitely there to look for the right opportunities in the right areas when that time comes.
Yeah. I got up to 6. 6 was my max at any one time. But, same as you, I produced all my chips on site at one place and farmed them out. All of my managers started work from my central hub. The day started, we'd all meet in the morning, and then they would drive off to their respective sites, and I would move people around so that I could never be held to ransom by my staff. I'd employ counter staff wherever the shops were, but my managers all came from on
the central prepared chip point, because people will be thinking I'm obsessed with it. The funny story was through COVID, I bought Rick Stein's potato plant because he closed all his potato plant and went the other way. So I then had a fish unit first, and then I got next door, and I bought Rick Stein's automated plant. It's my favourite thing in the world. I mean, I'd honestly say it's like it makes me smile.
So you bought the line and moved it up.
I bought it from Rick. So Rick Stein's was been bought by someone. I bought that off a company down in the South Coast. They reconditioned it, brought it back up brand new, and then installed it in Blackpool for me. And honestly, it cost me quite a lot of money, but it wasn't like ridiculous. I turned to Sal, I said, I'll just give 20 grand for this line. And she would literally look at me like this. Mark, she was like, not happy. But I'd already bought it, so I was only telling her really. I wasn't asking her. And she was like, oh, that's good then. So that won't mean we go and do any more chippies. I went, no, this will make it easier to open more chippies because we've got a central factory now. And I just became obsessed with making that line as efficient and as good as possible. And honestly, I'll tell you now, I love working there, and I will love working there till I'm ancient, because I can work in the inspection line and see them go through. I can work in boxing up. I can see them loading. And it's just so good to see the innovation that allows 2 men or 3 men team to get through a bag a minute, produce a great chip. And the chip, yes, it's better now than it's ever been, better than the prepared chip that we had back there, because I'm preparing it. And that game has never gone away from me, that we have to have a prepared chip that one group of people prepare to allow the staff, who then are the key people in the business, to look after the product, the customer, and the staff.
And if your chips are good in one site, they're good in all 10.
Correct.
Yeah, and there's no deviation. You've hit that standard across the board.
Yeah.
Sal isn't just your wife. She plays a vital role in the business as well, doesn't she?
She does, but listen, we don't argue. We don't argue in any way, but we argue about work when things like you're married to an accountant who, they're pretty safe, aren't they, accountants? And then she's married to me who's like, I've just thought about a chip shop. And they look at it in like numbers and I look at it as opportunity. So she will always say no, and I will always push the envelope. But very, very far cleverer than I would ever be. 3 A's at A level. We met when we were 15 and 17. She's balanced. She's everything I'm not, basically. And that she doesn't work in the shop. She doesn't have any physical role within the business. But in terms of looking after the numbers, looking after the girls in accounts, keeping me away from spending money that I'm not allowed to spend, and being quite disciplined. The only person who probably tells me no, that can't happen. And when you're managing COVID, and when you're managing energy crisis, and when you're managing fish prices touching 200 quid a case and spuds for 2 years at 20, 23 quid a bag, you do need a numbers person. And she's made me a hell of a disciplined businessman for numbers. And she's a credit to herself, because she's so disciplined at delivering cold, hard facts of numbers, and they never lie, Mark, and they never will lie, and that has to be. She's a big success story for me, in the fact that creating a brand that makes money is not easy, and creating it sustainably that runs for 10, 20, 30 years is got to be done on sound foundations. And to get through COVID and hire staff and grow the business, I'm not saying she would have chosen to do that, but her hard work has definitely allowed that to happen.
So, I'm in awe that a husband and wife can have such a great professional relationship as well. It's a credit to you both. Now, Seniors is based in a touristy area. I think we can say Blackpool is, it's the Vegas of the North, and but from a branding point of view, I want to make a couple of observations for the listener, who I hope will, off the back of this, go and take a look. Your website, your land is a landing page, but it's also the doorway to a really slick ordering platform, and it's one of the cleanest I think I've seen in the whole industry. So I congratulate you on that. Anyone who wants to see how to do it right, go and have a look at the Seniors website. It doesn't give a great deal of info. It's not full of bump and fluff. It is very functional, but it's so good. But you've always focused, and the phrase I'm going to use is hard-working locals. You've never relied on that tourist pound, which is probably the easier money to get at certain times of the year. You've always had a core that's focused on the people that live in the area as well. Just talk me through the
temptations of having a coastal site where you boom and bust and open 6 months of the year, earn an absolute fortune, and then go away to holiday home has never ever been on our agenda. I think the reality of being well known, well liked, well supported, delivering week after week is more of the way the family would value success as well. So for us, we've always tried to be the best we can be, and also compete with other local shops to get the local people's attention and support. So for me, I have always shone away from the the seasonal businesses, and every time I've gone anywhere near one, Sally would pop her head up and say no, and every time I've got actually close to doing it, I just don't see the warrants in it, because I like to have consistent sales. I mean, product's always better day after day. When it's busy, staff know where they stand, customers know where they stand. We're open when we tell we're going to be open, and I think the basics of the community of things like a post office, a bookies, a chip shop, a pub, I think are integral to the success of little areas that we operate in. So, no, always been interested in looking after the community, hiring from the community, and using, like, if I'm going to use a printer, I'm going to use a printer that's going to earn money from me and bring it back to me. I don't want to send it away to Birmingham miles away. It's not for me. Same for uniforms, same for chemicals, same for fruit and veg, all the things that make the mini ecosystem of where I live better, which sounds very socialist, which isn't me, but that is how I see business working. If we look after each other in a very cyclical way, everyone will benefit and move forward.
it sounds really ethical as well. And
it's easier, Mark, as well. I'm not some fluffy bullshit merchant. If I've got a guy who's local to me, I can just go and sort it. If he's miles away, then it gets difficult. And if I've got 10 sites within 10 miles, we want to be able to have frictionless operations with all businesses and tech and everything we work through. So for me, I'm not interested in other people's visions. I just want to do what we want to do and make that people happy. So the £10 bargain banger, it's a ripper of a deal. People can't turn the ovens on for less money than I can make them food. Let's have you in. Great. Cheapy Tuesday, the same. And then when the big days come, like Cheapy Tuesday or a Saturday saver, or even things like Good Friday or the birthday or a treat, we hope they pick seniors. There's nothing really more complex than that. So yeah, it's something I'm pretty keen to continue, and that's why I don't open much past my nose.
Great. So anyone who's thinking about entering Fish and Chip Shop of the Year, you never really explained why you entered it. What was the motivation behind it? What did you hope to gain from it? Did you achieve it? And what advice would you give to somebody who was thinking about doing it?
Okay, so 3 questions in one. So the Fish and Chip Shop of the Year is the pinnacle of fish and chips. Fact. That was the aim. So to be externally validated by the biggest award was a key driver. To enter the award of the Fish and Chip Shop of the Year and then be on the trophy of similar people like yourself, Nigel Hodgson, Hugh Jones. I'm going to name lots and lots of people, but everyone who is everyone in that industry has won that award. Now, there's amazing people who haven't won that award. Mr. Coleman, for instance, Mr. Hanbury. And I wanted to be a part of that club, so that was the driver. And when we got third and nowhere, I think that was the fuel to the fire. Now, the process is part of the game, I think, and that was part of then the addiction to win it. So I was fully engaged as soon as we got into the season of trying to win Chip Shop of the Year, and I think it won't be a surprise to any of the listeners to hear that I was addicted to making everything the best it could physically be for however long that mystery shopper phase was going to run for. So for me, the key thing was to be the best we physically could be when the judges came and ride that really good assessment into London, because it mattered, Mark. You've probably forgotten now, but if you went in there with a lower score than the guys above you for your shop, you had to pull a hell of a presentation out to add those scores through. So for me, they were just free marks from the feedback. Get the feedback, go through the form, go through it anally, look at fridge seals, doors, flowers, lemon wedge, service, badge, name, hat, apron, all the things that just get missed, flowers in the pots, is the weeds been done, car park clean. And for me, they were free marks. So I wanted to go into London with as many as I can, if not all of them. And that was taken on the fact that I didn't believe Seafish were ever going to change the voting sheets of the mystery shopper. Now, if they spun that and changed it, it would have had to go. But for me, and again, that was for me the highest mark I could physically go, and then blessed on the day or not to do my job in front of the judges.
Yeah. So it's a free health check for your business as well, to know that you're doing the best that you can do. Somebody starting their journey now into this competition, and under new stewardship, of course, with the NFF, but still with the same gravity, the same value to you if you're the ultimate winner. What advice would you give to somebody who was beginning the journey now?
My advice would be obsessed with the tiny details that add up to make your shop better than the other. Is it 30 now? And then 10?
Yeah.
And I think the reality of when we were doing it, we were Northwest A and B or middle A and B. I think it's slightly different now. But for me, I just wanted to beat the guy who was in the Northwest, and then that would control the local press, and then we would roll on to London in the top 10. That, I think, is slightly changed, but the reality of the things you can control, you can control. And I would give my advice to anyone going forward. The sacrifice of 5 weeks straight, 6 weeks straight for the mystery shopper phase, for me was not even a sacrifice, because we're trying to win the biggest award. So if someone says to me, do 42 days straight to make sure you serve the mystery shopper and it's the best it can be, then I'll do that. And someone would say, well, that's ridiculous, you need time off. But I can have time off when we've got the trophy. So for me, the obsession was to make sure the bits that was going to be judged. And again, it's difficult year one because you don't get the judging form. After year one, when you've maybe not won or you've not got anywhere, take that form, read the feedback, sweat the details, be obsessed. And then for you, I just wanted to look in the mirror every day and think, I've done my physical best with that mystery shopper window. And with that in mind, go to London with complete confidence that I'm going to deliver an opportunity to come in the top three and be very confident with that. So sweat the details, the things that add up do add up, and really things that Mr. Pilley would drive into me, really, like basic standards can get lost, like on a busy day, like bain-marie lids clean, get under fridges, fridge sealed doors. He could come at 12:30 on a Friday, and he would understand it, but he wanted it immaculate. So it was things that became the norm that are still in the brand now. So yeah, be obsessed with something that, let's be honest, will change your life.
Yeah, it does.
It's not. So for me, it was just, well, what, you want me to do 42 days straight to try and get to London? Right, okay. Right, no worries. Because I'd do 42 days of eating cabbage soup if they're going to stop me dying. Do you get it? So that was the point. Yeah. Obviously, it wasn't a sacrifice to me. But I don't know modern day operators if that's a sacrifice they're willing to take. But that's where the support of Sally and the family came in, because it allowed me to basically get the team of people each day ready to try and win the competition.
Well, by your own admission, you are an addict. You have an obsession with not only with your business seniors, but your approach to life. You are 100% everything.
Yeah, oh yeah,
without a doubt, that is your personality, and I could not imagine walking 1 mile or 1 kilometre in your shoes, let alone running 100 of them in a day. But
hey, Mark, let me stop you before you ask the next question. I cannot operate this business on my own, so nobody would ever think that I can do this on my own. I have got the most loyal core operation team that I've got over 130 years within the brand that have different personalities, different skill sets that make us better. So my head guy in charge of the central distribution has been with the business, been with seniors for 42 years, been with the business for 24 years. So he precluded us. He taught me to fry. His wife, been with the business 29 years, been with seniors 24 years. Shannon, she left at 16. She's been with me as an ops director for 11 and a half years. Brian Taylor, 15 years. My brother came out of school at 18. Been with me, he was 34 last week. However many years that is, 16 years. So Marilyn, in charge of accounts, this is her 10th year. She's going to work till 67. She's going to retire. She told me that 6 years ago. And we know she's going to retire at 67, or she'll do what she wants to do. So Emma Parker, Normos, 15 years, unbelievable manageress. So I just move the bigger pictures of the game about now and trust them to do the job that they're about. We meet regularly. I have got no attention for meetings. I am the worst. 4 or 5 minutes, I'm gone. They do incredible work, an amazing marketing company that we work with. And I have just pulled the bits that affect the bigger picture, like energy, spuds, fish. And then I just interfere, mate, with the rest of it. And sometimes they go, what are you here for? And I just go because I want to do something. And that's the reality. These people are the best in the industry, and they reflect well on themselves and on me because they make me better. So, yeah, I am a crazy addict that does it, but I have a team of people underneath me and with me that make the business daily the best it can be.
It's a very humble thing to say, but you're the glue that sticks it all together.
Yeah.
So the question I was going to ask was multiple multiple operator. You've won so much. You've achieved so much. People that you look up to in the business have gone and won multiple operator. Hugh Lipscomb, Hugh and James, I know, personal friends of yours, somebody that you people that you admire, look up to, respect in many, many ways.
One of the best.
Hugh Jones, another great guy, multiple operator. What's stopping you from entering that and going and getting another gong? Is there anything preventing you, or is it just that you're focused now?
Two things probably more. One, I'm not an Treble-F member anymore, which I don't know if that matters. And the other thing is I've worked my absolute tail off to build a brand that has struggled at times to find the right operations, the right tech, the right systems. And I don't really ultimately want to share that with the outside world. And because it's hard. I mean, like I opened a spud line that did 19 kilos out of a bag of spuds, created 4 hours of mess for 7 bags of spuds. And it took me 2.5 weeks to get a problem that was costing me more money in mash and not even doing a good product. And it was those lessons that I don't really want to ultimately regale, but also those things take time. And I think when you come into a business like ours now, I'm open book to people. They want to come and visit the brand, they come and look round, no problem. But I think when you come in trying to externally validate, I don't need that anymore. And I think the journeys that I'm on and the industry's on, I think are completely different now. And I think for us to be, if I turn around in a management meeting and they all said, right, we want to do this award, and we all had buy-in, the last person to buy in would be me. And that's the situation, the fact that we don't seek that national external validation. And I think there's great operators out there that are still way better than we are. Fish and Chicken, the absolute hero, Hugh and James have worked with me forever. Class them as friends, which is I'm blessed. They're the best of 40 plus shops running a massive business, combined with Pret bankers. Just bought an amazing business in London called Ollie's. I mean, they are the creme de la creme, and I'd feel embarrassed competing with them. So for me, it's not something on the menu. And also there's challenges always to people's opinion on what your business is. And back in 2012, maybe I needed it. Now I'm pretty comfortable in my little business brain that I'm doing the best I physically can. And if I don't, we'll work as a team to try and find a solution.
Bigger fish to fry.
No. Not bigger fish to fry, just more challenging, faster fish that need my attention.
It was a really good answer. It's not the answer I was expecting, but it is a perfect answer. What's next for seniors?
If you asked me 2 weeks ago, it was different, but I've just spent 12 hours on my own in the middle of a forest, walking around contemplating my own life, never mind the brand's life. But I mean, the reality, we haven't got all the shops perfect how I want it to be. There's a shop in particular that it's been a challenge for a decent while. There's a new shop that's just absolutely great. I love it. The area potentially could open up to another store. I'm centrally preparing mushy peas and baked fish and tartar sauce this summer, which is going to be a little central prep kitchen, so we can flirt with the idea of working with Stell and do some more homemade fish cakes and other products. And then the reality of sorry to say a shit answer, but just keep doing the same thing. There's nothing sexy about it. Keep doing the same thing. And if an opportunity comes, there's 2 shops I'd like to buy. I'd like to buy them, but they're not for sale. So maybe sell one, maybe buy one, maybe buy 2. I'm not led by that. I'm not led by that anymore. I'm 40 next year. I can't see me buying many more shops between 40 and 50. That's a fact. My kids are 8, 10 and 12. They're taking a hell of a lot of time up in outside school and inside of school, and I'm doing my absolute best to support them and the staff and the people there. But the reality is, if the opportunity comes, we're a well-run business to take it. If it doesn't, I'm not chasing it, and we'll see what comes. But the main focus at the moment is getting through the potato season, 3 weeks away, getting through this energy crisis, which for me is October, and then we see what happens with the incoming Labour government and how things change with labour laws and with potential other things to the business, and just see where the next challenge takes us, Mark.
Do you see your challenges for seniors as being different to those for the industry?
I think because we employ 140 odd people, I think that will be a change. But I mean, when you look at James, for instance, with the amount of people, I think he's past 700. I mean, things change. The business rates are a huge one for all of us. What happens with business rates with the new elected government? Things like the way that the labour laws are, 0-hour contracts, and things in terms of how taxation is planned and managed. They're things that we don't know yet. We didn't know about Ukraine. We didn't know about, obviously, the Hamas attack. We didn't know about how COVID was going to appear and live with us for the period of time. So I think you've got to run your business now with one eye fully open, with the bank with a little bit of fat in it, and maybe safety first, because I think I said this last time, but I genuinely do see the industry shrinking to become a butcher-size industry where you have really good operators that are the creme de la creme in every town, and the marginal shops will dissipate and they'll be supported. Now, I listened to one of the podcasts before. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday night, all day Friday, Saturday may become the norm for chip shops. It may become that way, and I think you've got to now just be realistic with living wage being at 12 quid and energy being at 5p and electric be 20p and fish being 160, 70, 80, 200 quid a case, and spuds being fixed price contracts 12 quid plus. I mean, the challenges are different to what it was 4 years ago when COVID came. So I think the reality for all of us is spend a bit more time with your calculator, spend a bit more time with the basics of feasibility of certain days, shifts, menu items, size of fish, chips, costing of labour, and just become a bit more sustainable in terms of how you operate going forward.
Well, I, for one, always enjoy spending time chatting to you. The podcast, the 2-part podcast you did with Stelios, is still my favourite podcast, and I've said it before I actually got to speak to you. So I just want to thank you again for giving me your time today and for the time before. Have a good rest, and do come on again. Let us know how things are going.
You asked me if I did it for charity, and you made me feel, as the other 4 other people have made me feel guilty for doing it. And I answered the question by saying it isn't. I don't think it's befitting for a charity. But as my brain has been speaking to you, and I'm just working out in my mind how far Callum Richardson is up in Scotland and how far Fred Capel is, and how many miles or kilometres that would be from the furthest point to the lowest point. But then I'm not sure Carly. Did Carly win Chip Shop of the Year? I don't put you on the spot, but I know she's a ferry, isn't she?
Frankie's. Yeah.
So Frankie's to Fred Capel. Shares Fred. That would be a hell of a run for charity, wouldn't it?
You'd have a beard by the time you got there. It'd be like Tom Hanks.
Yeah. That would be worth it for charity. Any charities that want to do that, and any supporters that want to do that, I would do that, and I'll put that on the podcast.
Well, I'd get my mountain bike out and bike some of it with you.
There you go.
I'm not going to run it. Thanks again for your time, and I'll see you. I'll see you about at some point, I'm sure.
Thanks, Mark.
Thanks ever so much. Cheers.